Hello and welcome to Business Insider with Mario Toneguzzi on YYC Business, brought to you today by MegaPixx Media. Joining me is Paula Allen, Global Leader and Senior Vice President of Total Wellbeing for LifeWorks. Thanks for joining us again, Paula.
A pleasure, Mario.
Well, the LifeWorks put out today, released its latest mental health index. Let's just start the conversation, Paula, by asking you, in general, what is the overall feel of what that index is indicating right now in terms of the state of mind of and mental health of Canadians right now?
Well, I think there's a bit of good news. And the good news is that we are seeing a bit of a trend towards improvement. So as you know, as we've spoken about in other episodes, there was a massive decline in the mental health of the working population at the start of this pandemic when we started measuring monthly. And we really haven't seen much improvement since. And really, we haven't seen from the very beginning a massive amount of improvement. We started out at a score of negative 11.7. And now we are still negative, which means that we're below what we were in 2019 and before, but it's negative 10.1. So we have seen over the past 3 months a modest but steady increase.
Okay, before I get into you more specific questions, I just wanted to focus on that aspect. Why do you think there is an improvement in mental health right now?
Well, we're starting to see some change. I mean, we're still very much in a situation of risk. So we're talking about Delta variant. You know, there's still some restrictions in some areas, although they're much less than they were before. And we are talking about how we are going to adapt in our next phase. So we are moving to something more positive than what we had before. So I think that optimism is increasing, but other indicators are not increasing as much. Like we still have anxiety, we still have uncertainty, we still have just even the impact of being under strain for so many months. So it will be a while before we see some significant improvement, but the good thing is that we are seeing more optimism, and that's really driving our positive trend.
Excellent. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the results as it relates to women from the index. First thing, women are 40% more likely than men to report an organization's culture does not support their personal well-being. Is that surprising? And also, why do you think females, I guess, feel that way right now?
Well, it's critical that we pay attention to this information. What it really tells us is that well-being needs to be somewhat personal. So the culture of well-being, an organization could be promoting well-being in a particular way, but if it doesn't feel relevant to the individuals that you're trying to support, then you're not going to perceive that culture, even though the intent is quite strong. So we've seen so much through this pandemic about the need for personalization, the need to sort of understand people's experience. We're not, just one big mass of employees. There are very individual needs. And just basically the culture of well-being needs to reflect that as well. So I think it's a big wake-up call for employers to really look at the needs of different groups and see whether the support that's being offered, the attitudes that are being shared really do send that well-being message in an appropriate way to everyone.
Okay, one of the other interesting tidbits of info that I saw in that report was 35% of women prefer to work from home compared to 30% of men. Thoughts on that and why that is?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I think, there's, still, we have a fairly progressive society, but there's a lot of accountability and a lot of home responsibility that tends to be placed on women at a disproportionate level. And on a practical level, that means time drain. So time to do X, time to do Y, in addition to time to spend on your work. And we have seen in our survey that time, just commuting time is so precious. And
Mhm.
that's actually a huge driver of people wanting to work from home, just to save that time. And if women don't have as much based on other responsibilities, it becomes more of a priority. The other thing that we're seeing, however, is that, and it's kind of aligned to this culture of well-being, that women are more likely to want to work from home to avoid tension and conflict in the workplace. So if some of that conflict is around what you need for your own personal situation, it's very aligned. And also, I do think it would be wise for organizations to understand and manage and train their managers on how to deal with conflict in the workplace, which will come up. But certainly it's really, creating an issue for certain segments of the population more so than others.
I was going to ask you, my next question was on that specifically, right? Women are twice as likely to want to work from home to avoid tension and conflict with their coworkers. I found that quite interesting. Any thoughts on that, Paula?
Yeah, I think we've seen this as well with some underrepresented groups, and in some situations and some cultures, women are underrepresented, even if not in numbers, in voice. So what happens in that situation is that sometimes you experience microaggressions because of your situation. You get, comments around taking a call to deal with X, Y, and Z. Luckily, that's less, but it's still there. And generally speaking, and I'm talking generally now, not about individuals, women prefer a more collaborative environment as opposed to sort of moving forward with an environment where there's a fair bit of conflict that leads to an outcome. You duke it out and then you come out with a solution. No, I think women have the strength and the power to sort of, really look at collaboration as something that's important for the environment. And if you have a culture where that isn't the case, then you're really going to disengage a group of people who really are not aligned to the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else, Paula, that struck you from the latest monthly results on the index?
Well, I do think it's really important to feel good about the fact that we are moving to a different phase and that we do have this optimism. But I always still like to be very realistic. We're still 10 points lower than we were just a few months ago, and only 2 points of a decline would be concerning. So we still are in a place where we have to look out for ourselves and look out for others, and organizations need to focus on well-being. Because what we are going through as well over this next little while is another level of change. So as we're returning to the work site, as we're setting new norms, it's not going to feel wonderfully comfortable, even though it is progressive, and that's going to cause the strain. So our mental health is still important to pay attention to.
Okay, super. Thanks a lot again, Paula, for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
All right, that was Paula Allen, Global Leader and Senior Vice President of Research and Total Wellbeing for LifeWorks. This has been Business Insider with Mario Toneguzzi on YYC Business, brought to you today by MegaPixx Media.